Well, hello there, YouTube. I'm Jeremiah Gibbs, and I've got a lot of weight to lose. I am I've just completed my third week on a GLP-1 med, Tirzepatide, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my update of week 3, but I'll tell you how much weight I've lost in the first 3 weeks, which is just absolutely incredible to me. But also I want to tell you a little bit about my experience because this has really been an incredible experience in a lot of different ways, and I want to kind of explain some of that. So first off, I'm releasing this video just after the new year, but my extended family came here. I'm a pastor, so Christmas is pretty complicated for us, Christmas Eve and so on. So my extended family, that is my wife's family, brothers and sisters, all their kids, grandparents, etc., were all here last week. So our last week was more like a Christmas celebration for most families, and so all of the challenges of the holidays of, lots of food being around, lots of cooking happening, lots of sweets and, cookies and things like that being around. That was last week for us. So it was more like holidays for me. So this was a good challenge for me with the new meds and the new eating habits and stuff to be able to have this week. So first of all, the holiday eating was completely different. Not to say I didn't snack more and I didn't eat more. I did snack and eat a little bit more than I do normally when I'm just going to work and stuff, but not a lot more, because the appetite suppression was still working on me, and for the most part I only ate a little bit more probably than I would have if I were going to work and whatever. And the food was not as selective because I was eating whatever the family was eating. Honestly, the whole conversation that people have about food noise was really apparent to me during this last week, because the food noise of like just wanting to eat and snack on all this food that's sitting around, that's available all the time, it was not a problem for me for the most part. Again, I ate a little bit more. I did do some snacking, but it was such much smaller portions than I ever would have without the medication. So I was really grateful to experience what that was like, and to know what the holidays is like, or what food being around like that is like for people that don't have the food noise, that don't have the kind of constant I want to eat mode. And so, again, that's never been torturous for me in other instances. I just go ahead and eat what I want. So I have not really tried to change that. I did actually take my shot usually I've been taking my shot on Thursday nights. During that last week, I took it on Thursday morning, knowing that I was having all this food around. I thought it's just going to help me on Thursday. It's going to give me one additional day of being able to resist that food temptation. So I took the shot a little bit early to be able to do that. The other thing that was a little bit interesting, and it worked. The other thing that was a little bit interesting about this week was I was getting at the end of my bottle. So the medication comes in a vial. I get it from a compounding pharmacy that sends it in a 1-month vial, and you use your syringes and you withdraw a week's dose each time, and then it should take about a month. Well, what I've learned is that pretty much all of those vials have extra medicine in them. Now, you can decide what you're going to do with that extra medicine. You may decide just to give yourself a larger dose. You may decide to extend a week, and I would have been able to do that in this instance. I would have gotten an extra week out of it if I wanted to do that. What I decided to do this time, and I'll do it again next month, is I began titrating myself up a little bit faster at the end of the month, so that the transition next week, when I'll get my larger 5 milligram shot, will not be as significant. So what I did is I had enough medicine to give myself 3.4 milligrams last week, and then the shot that I just took yesterday, I gave myself 3.9 milligrams. So I'm slowly coming up to what's going to be my 5 milligram prescription, by just increasing and taking those extra meds that's in the bottle. And I think that's a good choice for me, because I like the idea of the transition being smoother. So far, I haven't had any side effects, that's the next update. I've literally not had any side effects that I would say are negative side effects from this medicine. I've not felt bad. It suppresses appetite. It does all the things it's supposed to do. And so far, no negative. Now, how about weight loss? So again, this was kind of my holiday eating time. It was challenging for those reasons, and still incredible weight loss. So my first week, I lost 3 pounds. My second week, I lost 5 pounds. And now my third week, I've lost 4 pounds. So I've lost a total of 12 pounds in 3 weeks, which I'm really thrilled with those kind of results. I do have a body scan scale, which tells me a bit about what kind of weight I'm losing and things like that. I do know, about how much fat percentage I've lost, about how much lean muscle mass I've lost, and how much water weight, like actual just water. A significant amount of that is water. Probably about half of it is water weight. And I'm learning that isn't, that's not, it is still significant that you're losing that water weight, because it's not water like sitting in the belly or something that we usually think about. I'm not sure where we think what we mean by water weight, but what I'm learning is about inflammation. So that's what I want to talk a little bit about at the end of this video, because that's super important, I think, is that the inflammation decrease is one of the main things that this medicine is doing. And I've got a lot about my own story that makes that important for me. So likely what is happening with that early significant weight loss is the inflammation decrease means that your body is retaining less water. So when you are inflamed, when you have an inflammation response, your body retains water as part of that process. And when you reduce inflammation, it then flushes that water. That's part of what happens with early weight loss. And I think that's probably true with all weight loss plans, is that when we lose a lot at the early part, it's partly because of this reduction in inflammation. So why is this happening? So I was very surprised. I've said this in an earlier video. I was very surprised when I started taking this, the inflammation that I've had for like 2.5 years in my both Achilles and in my left knee, the inflammation that makes it hard. I get up and I kind of have to get going a little bit before I can walk across the room without limping and that kind of thing. And then I get warmed up and I'm okay and whatever. That's been going on for years now. Start taking these meds literally within like 48 hours. Most of my pain is gone. I'm now 3 weeks in, have almost no foot pain, almost no knee pain. It's incredible. It would be worth taking the medications just for that. But I'm like, okay, why is this happening? So I did a little bit of research, a little bit of study, and there's multiple factors here. The first one is GLP receptors are not only in the belly, they're also in the pancreas and other parts of the body that have to do with this inflammation response. So again, there are GLP receptors in your brain, in your pancreas, in your gut. They're all over your body. And when those inflammatory parts of the parts of the inflammatory system are activated by the GLP-1, they reduce inflammation. And there's a direct reduction of inflammation because of the GLP-1 receptors that are in the same parts of your system as the inflammation response. So the GLP-1 is directly reducing inflammation in your gut, but also it happens all over your body. You actually are reducing system-wide inflammation, which means that you're going to have less of the just pain that you might have in your back or other kinds of things, because there's going to be less inflammation. Because what happens, and this is just what I'm learning as I'm reading, is that insulin spikes and high levels of insulin, as well as just high levels of visceral fat, cause inflammation. So they actually are, the body responds with an inflammatory response to those things. And so part of what is happening when you reduce that inflammation is your gut health is restoring, your sort of normal digestion processes are being restored in part by the reduction of inflammation. It's slowing gastric processing as well as part of the GLP-1 process, which then, because you have fewer insulin spikes, you get less inflammation being caused as well. So that's incredible. Now, one of the reasons that matters for like our whole body system too is that your body, when you have this inflammation, this kind of chronic whole system, whole body inflammation, your body sort of is in like a moderate fight or flight response, right? So some of the things that we normally associate with an anxiety, panic, fight or flight response all get reduced when the chronic or the whole system wide inflammation is reduced. And so clearer thinking, more energy, typically like less just like anxiety, like system, sort of not chronic anxiety, but the kind of anxiety that we all just kind of carry all the time. Many of these things are reduced when you reduce the inflammation because your brain is responding more in a healthy way rather than in this kind of elevated fight or flight response. So the inflammation reduction is huge, and the inflammation reduction is at least a significant part of why I and others have lost so much weight at the beginning. And again, 12 pounds down. I know from my, or at least, my bioscale, the scan scale that I use, is telling me that there's probably been about 3 or 4 pounds of fat loss. There's been about 2 or 3 pounds of lean body mass reduction, and the rest is unattributed for the most part, which means it's mostly water. Okay, so that water weight is probably mostly because of the reduction in inflammation. Now, the interesting thing is that in addition to that, my percentage of water in my body, the hydration of my body, has actually gone up by about 1%, which to me says, well, it could be a math thing that the body is lower, the same amount of water would be a greater percentage. So that might be part of it. But it also may be that my intercellular, because inflammation water is not intercellular hydration. And so it may be that actually I have increased my intercellular hydration while reducing my inflammatory water weight even more than what it appears. So again, these are all just things that I'm learning as I study. I want to try to get a little bit nerdy because I get nerdy when I start experiencing these things. But so far, 3 weeks in, 12 pounds lost, feel way better, 100% better, mostly I think because of reduction of inflammation. And excited to share that with you all. So next week I just last night took a 3.9 milligram shot. So it's slowly titrating up just because I had extra medicine left in my vial. Next week, I'll be actually giving myself the 5 milligram dose. But already beginning to increase those dosages just with the extra medicine. I'm excited about that. So far, the appetite suppression, everything is still working great. The system, the whole thing, it's just been great for me so far. Follow along the channel if you want. I've got some videos that'll be like this one where I give updates, but I'm also going to give some of my nerding out about learning like this. So if you also kind of want to learn about how these things are working without having to do a lot of the research yourself, then I've been creating videos like that as well. So follow the channel, click the like button. Please do that because that helps people in the YouTube world to know that this content is the kind of thing that they're interested in. And so that really helps me. That's a great way to say thank you. If you leave a few comments, that'll also be a great thank you too. So if you're somewhere like I am, you're like week 3, week 4, put in the comments how much weight you lost or have lost in that first month. That'll be a great encouragement to the people who are watching this, because we know a lot of the people who are watching this are in that same place. They're in that 3-4 week range. So please leave a comment about how much you've lost in that 3 to 4 week range. That'll help others. Have a great week.